How's it going, everyone? Will here, 5 Pigs Up Garage. Today I'm changing the power steering fluid on this Aston Martin Vantage. We got the car all covered up because I've got this custom wrap that I did and I don't want the power steering fluid eating through the vinyl. It's really simple. I mean, it's a simple job in terms of difficulty, taking it apart, accessing it and everything, but it's a messy job. It's complicated if you want to work clean. So here's what the fluid looked like before. You can see I'm putting it in front of that fluorescent light back there. It was completely like black. It was nasty and the fluid was low. So that's what I removed out of here. And the way I did it, I'm just going to show a quick, how we're doing this. I've already changed. This is the last little bit of fluid left. The last bottle of fluid. I've got the reservoir back down to just above the essentially for the reservoir, this would be the outlet hose. It goes from here down to the pump. This is like can't be removed. You see it's got the actual high pressure clamp on here. This goes to the pump. Then from the pump it goes to the rack and pinion or your steering setup, and then it comes from there through a cooler on my car. And not all cars have that, but this is a high performance car, so it comes through a cooler and then it comes back. There's a return line which is currently in that Coke bottle right there, and you can see the green fluid. So these, it says the lid says ATF, but at some point in time Aston Martin changed to the Pentosin CHF11S, so that's what I'm putting in it. That's definitely not what was in it. And this stuff's bright green. I don't know if you can see in here where I've got some in there. It's green, and if you can see down there, I don't know if you can, but it is green. It's just hard to see because it's a bunch of black hoses. So I've flushed it. I've left it above this outlet hose because what you want to do is you want to disconnect the return line, which is the one that's in the Coke bottle. They're both on this car down. You can see it down under this hose. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Down under this hose right here, you can see the rubber nipple down there. So you want to remove the hose. I used a vacuum cap. I had a large vacuum cap. You're going to stick it on the bottom of the reservoir so that you can continue to fill the reservoir. And you don't want to get it lower than I have it. The reason I have it and it's low now is because in order to connect the hoses back together, I have to drain the reservoir enough so that I can tip it on its side and connect the return line back to it. If it was full of fluid, it would just pour right out the minute I take that cap off and make a huge mess. And if you can see, there's no mess in here because we've spent the extra amount of time to work clean, work smart, not hard. So you want to get your car up on jack stands. I have a jack under there for safety, but there are stands on each side. And what you're going to do is you're going to either take the steering wheel and turn it lock to lock. Every time you hit a lock, I wait about 3 seconds. Then you turn it back. Just do it at a nice slow pace. Or you can grab the wheels here if you want a nice workout and turn them lock to lock since they're both in the air. And you're going to keep topping off this reservoir. I kept it full to the very lip here. Right under the threads, I kept it full throughout the first. I took 3 bottles, 3 Coke bottles. This is like a 20-ounce bottle or whatever that was wedged in here. That was what I could fit in here without having a mess. So I took about 3 bottles out. I got 3 bottles of the Pentosin. I've got 3/4 of a bottle left, and that's enough to fill the reservoir back up once I drain it to put the whole system back together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn them lock to lock a bunch once I've filled it to the proper height. And we'll keep doing that until if any bubbles come out, you'll see bubbles. They'll be popping up in the top of the fluid and it'll be bleeding the rest of the air out of the system. But by doing it this way, you don't really get any air in the system. That's why I didn't run it lower. It does look empty, but it's not. It's It's about here where this bolt is, and then as you can see, the line is down here another inch or two, and I'm going to drain it down to where the fluid's going to be kind of right here in the hose, and the reservoir will be empty, so that I can remove this nipple, put that back on, put the clamp back on. So it might get a little bit of air. We'll fill this to the proper amount, turn it. I'll probably turn the wheels. I do everything overkill because I don't want any issues. I'll probably have to turn them quite a bit till there's no bubbles, and then I'll do it a little bit afterwards just to make sure. And then when you don't see any more bubbles rising to the top of your filled reservoir, you can put the cap on and you're good to go. And like I said, my fluid was nasty. I was going to go through and do bottle after bottle showing the difference, but this job is such a pain. It helps to have a second person. I've got my friend helping me turn the wheel, because you don't want to get, when you don't want to get like the old fluid. You can see this hose is a little bit dirty. It got a little bit of fluid on it down here, which is typical because it goes in the bottle, then you pour the bottle out. So this is the only contaminated area. We'll wipe it down really clean and put it back on, you know, and clean everything up. But there's no leaks, nothing. I didn't have to get to this from the bottom of the car. And just take your time. That's the main thing. This can become a horribly messy job quickly, but if you take your time, it's not too bad. And then, like I said, you'll turn the wheels, lock the lock. I'm not going to, because I've already got the right amount of fluid I need without introducing more air into the system. I just thought I would go over this really quick and show you. And when my helper comes back, we'll pull the bottle out so you can see how I have the bottle set in here. And then we just have the hose bent down. There is some pressure on that hose. It doesn't really like to bend down too much. So I undid the bracket here. It's an 8mm. You can see down there. I undid that. And then there's 3 8mm holding the reservoir. Now, to remove the hose off the bottom of the reservoir and get to the clamp, this one right here that's on the return line, I did remove the reservoir. I tipped, so essentially I took a transfer pump. I pumped out all the original fluid that was in there. That's that nasty stuff I showed you in that bowl. I pumped a bunch of that out, and then what I did was I set the bowl. I put a bunch of paper towels right here, like so, like this. I put a bunch of paper towels underneath, which I didn't even really need, but I'm still going to do it again when I drain the remaining clean fluid out of here. And then what I did was I put that bowl right under here. I popped the hose off so it drained everything into the bowl. Essentially, we're going to do that again. We'll pop the vacuum nipple off, and then I'll hold this up. I'll put the lid on. Actually, we're going to put the lid on now so you can see. And this reservoir right now is only being held in by 1 bolt. To make it easy, I don't have those 2 in. When you do take these out, make sure there's one way down there. It's hard to see with my phone light, but there is a second. You can see the bushing down there. And then there's one right here. And that's what's holding it in, that 8mm. Bolt there. Make sure when you take the bolts out that you get the sleeve that goes inside the bushing, so you don't lose that. They fall out and you can't see them, otherwise it doesn't work properly. So what we'll do is I'll remove this 8mm bolt that's holding this whole assembly on, put the cap on so we can tip it on its side without it spilling out the top. Then the only way for the fluid to escape is this bottom hose. We'll tip it up. She'll hold the bowl under it. I'll pull the vacuum cap off. It'll pour the rest of the fluid in, and then it'll be tipped up. It'll keep the fluid at the end of this hose. Then I'll connect this hose, pull it out of the bottle that's full of fluid, dump the fluid. I'm just dumping it in my drain pan. Attach the 2, put the clamp on. So then we'll put it back, bolt it up, and then fill this. And then once again, turn the wheels, lock to lock. All right, so I've got everything connected. You can see the return line, how it goes, where that rubber nipple was. down there, and the clamp is in the same spot. These hoses, that hose has a like a lip there, so there's a little bit of a gap. It's like molded. It does look like, I always try to put the clamps back exactly where they were so they seal right. You're going to want to make sure that you check. The only place you're going to check for a leak will be right there on this one hose. That's the only thing that was disconnected in this whole system, so we'll try to keep an eye on that. But the clamp is where it was originally at, so there is like a lip. It kind of threw me off for a minute. As you can see, there's like a gap on that lower hose, but it's where it's supposed to be. So not a big mess, nothing. I did spill a slight little drip down the side when I was filling it up again, and now I've got it about where it needs to be. Now keep in mind the car is still jacked up, because to bleed the rest of the air bubbles out, you need the wheels off the ground. So what I'm going to do is add, as it bubbles, it should lower down just a little bit to fill that slight amount of negative space when we drain the reservoir to hook the hoses back up. See, because if we hadn't drained the reservoir again, then that would have just dumped all over the place. There's no way you'd swap those hoses fast enough without spilling fluid everywhere. And then what I used was just a vacuum cap, similar to this. Let's see, I think I have them on my Evo, just one of these rubber caps. I already threw it away, but you can see these right here, just a large rubber cap. It obviously a much larger size because of the diameter of that hose. So now that's buttoned up. We've got the two 8mm bolts I was trying to show you down there, and then the one right here. Once again, don't forget the little sleeves that go inside the bushings so you don't lose them. That hose is bolted back up. I just unbolted that tie down so that we had the ability to move the reservoir and had room, because otherwise these hoses are pretty solid, you know. So you can see there isn't a lot of movement, and the bottle was just shoved down right here. Make sure everything's back where it is. And now I'm going to try to show you this the best I can. If you look in the reservoir, it's hard to do this without a helper, and right now I don't have one. So I'm going to turn my steering wheel, and you're going to see the bubbles that you're bleeding out. You should see some bubbles. So I turned it one way, and we'll go the other way. So let it sit for a few seconds, and then you can hear them too. And you just want to keep going back and forth until you get all the bubbles out. The first time I turned it, there were some bubbles, but it's really hard to see, unfortunately, without somebody holding the camera right there. But you get the idea, hopefully. It's pretty self-explanatory. Turn it back again. And then you're just going to keep doing that a couple times until you get all the bubbles out. It's not bubbling like it was. I turned it a few times and it was bubbling like crazy. So that was probably that little bit of air, like I said, when I reconnected the hose. Now I'm going to put a little more fluid in. This is like a safe fluid level. It might not be, it might be overfilled. It might be a little low. If you put too much fluid in, it's better to put more in than less. Remember, if the car's up in the air, so it might have too much. When you lower it, it might be much higher. It's okay, just take like a turkey baster. I got this one from Target that I use for all the like oils and all the automotive stuff. It's like 11 inches and extremely narrow. It's at Target for like 10 bucks. You can just put that in and take a little bit out so that you can get it exactly where you need it and get the perfect amount of fluid in there. And then as you can see, the fluid's like nice and clean, and it's the updated Pentosin CHF11S, the CHF11S. It's just expensive. It's like 40 bucks a liter, almost 50 bucks a liter. But that's what you need. And I use 3. There's that one. Well, essentially 2 and like a half. There's 2 more down there that are empty. 2.5. I could have flushed a little more. But you want to leave, I left like 3/4 of that third bottle since the fluid was already coming out clean. That way I could anticipate filling the reservoir. I wasn't sure how much I'd need to actually fill the reservoir for the final time after draining it to hook the hoses up. So I left 3/4 and I have maybe 1/4 left. So like you could probably get away with 2.5 and then use that last half for the final fill. But I was playing it safe. But yeah, there you go. Now it's got good fluid. Once I bleed this, it'll be good to go. I'll keep doing it until I'm not absolutely sure there's no bubbles in the system. Remember, lock to lock, I just pause a little bit between locks, and then we'll let the car down, put the cap on, let the car down, check the level, then start it up, and obviously take it for a test drive really quick. Make sure you don't have any whining or any crazy sounds, and hopefully it feels really good. I'm really hoping it brings that pump and gives me a really buttery steering. I do know these cars have wider tires, but compared to like my Evo, my truck, and my Miata, and my Range Rover, it has really wide tires, but the power steering is really heavy in this car. So I don't know if it's like that naturally, or 100% having a horrible fluid and having it low and dirty, destroyed fluid like that could cause that. So I'm excited to see what it's like afterwards. I hope this is helpful. Sorry that I wasn't able to go through the exact process showing the fluid pumping out when I turn it lock to lock, but to film that, you need 2 people to do it. To do this job, let alone filming, you should use 2 people to save yourself a headache. And it's going to be the same process for pretty much any vehicle. Just remember, the hose that goes from the reservoir to the power steering pump is not the one you want to do. You want the hose that comes from goes from the opposite, essentially. You want the one that goes from, if you can't trace it all the way down to the rack, or gearbox, steering box, whatever type of steering system your vehicle has. You want essentially there's 2 hoses. You want the one that isn't coming from that goes to the power steering pump. If it goes to the power steering pump, it's the wrong hose. So as you can see, this one comes around down here and it goes into the back of the power steering down there. So I hope this was helpful. It was just a quick video. I figured, hey, well, I got this apart. There's nothing online for doing this on an Aston Martin. It's the same as any other car. If you screw something up or spill this stuff on your paint or something, you just have, it's way more expensive to fix. So yeah, enjoy. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe.